Hey guys, Willie and Murfitt here. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. In today's episode, I'm doing more stuff on our daily drivers. And this time, wheel bearings.
I know you don't love me like you say you do.
Okay, so we're back in the garage and the car is temporarily jacked up. Now technically it's my fault because I fitted these aftermarket wheels. These are Mazda MX-5 wheels, or Miata if you're American, and in order to fit them I had to remove the centre cap for the wheels, so there's no centre cap fitted to these, which meant that the bearings and the hub nut was all exposed. Unfortunately then that meant that the bearings got wet and all the grease leaked out. The discs have seen better days, so I've ordered new discs and pads, and inside the disc on the Renault they have the wheel bearing, as I said earlier. They're in the back of the car at the moment. So what I'll do is I'll take the wheel off, I'll get the car down off the axle stands, and then we'll have a closer look and see what the situation is. Okay, so we're going to start with the passenger side, which is the noisiest of the two sides. Try and work out exactly what's wrong with it. I'm out of breath, but I'm putting it down to it being a wheel bearing. 2 seconds. Right, sorry about that. I had to puff in the inhaler. Right, okay, so let's get down here and have a look and see exactly what's wrong. The other side, I don't know, I believe it's just going to be a little bit noisy. Sorry, just a little bit warm. But this side here, the passenger side in particular, was the noisiest of the sides. Hopefully you picked that up on the sound previously. So, the car is now jacked up. Just going to put axle stand underneath and we can have a quick look using my light. Okay, so with the car now supported by the axle stand and the jack, I'm just going to check the wheel bearing. So typically at the front, and this is the rear, you get side to side to check for any steering play, top and bottom to check any sort of suspension ball joint play, and typically sort of across to check for any wheel bearings. On the rear, you can do the same. You can check side to side. I can feel a bit of play. I can check top and bottom. I can feel a bit more play. I can check across, and I can feel more play again. So if you can hear that at all. And then the last thing to check is to spin the wheel up. Now the ways to check if you can't hear anything, we need to hold the shock absorber or hold the spring. So in this case it's down the back. I don't think it's going to be needed to hold anything because of the noise this was making when driving. So let's see. Not cool. So that's kind of confirmed it. The wheel bearing is absolutely knackered. So take the wheel off, take the brake off, and we should be done in no time. So let's just crack on, shall we? Okay, so for this job, what do I need? Well, first of all, parts wise, I'm going to need a disc brake. This one has an ABS ring and the wheel bearing enclosed. I'm going to need my box of brake pads so they can be replaced with the discs, and it's always advisable to do both sides. I'm going to need a 17mm socket for the wheel nuts, and I'm using this battery powered gun to sort of speed up the process. I've got a breaker bar to clock off these nuts to start with. I've got an 18mm socket and a ratchet, and that's to do the caliper carrier bolts. I've got a 13mm spanner to undo the actual caliper itself. A wire brush to clean everything up. A screwdriver, flat bladed, or a lever bar to prise out the brake pads. A small hammer in case you need to tap any sockets onto rusted nuts, and also a pair of grips. Now the grips can or can't, it's up to you if you use them or not, but when you get to the handbrake cable, it's quite hard to get off without something like this, or a screwdriver. The other thing I need to use is a caliper wind back tool, which I need to find that. So let's get the car stripped down, and then I'll show you that when I get to it. The other tool I failed to mention was a 30mm socket for the hub, and a torque wrench set to 180 Newton meters to do up the hub nut once you're finished. I've got the 4 wheel nuts off, I've got the hub nut off as well. I'm just undoing the 2 bolts up here, they're 13mm. Once these are off, the caliper can be removed, but it's a little bit easier just to remove this handbrake cable as well. So you can see the discs are pretty scored, so I think it's a good time we're changing these anyway. So the caliper is now off, and you can see here, this is the piston for the caliper. That's just going to be wound back in. Pads look pretty, well, actually don't look too bad to be honest. The 18mm socket now at the back. That's the caliper carrier off, and with that off I should be able to remove this disc as well. Just wire brush this clean. So this here is the caliper wind back tool. It's got little lugs on the end, and they locate into the holes on that caliper, like so. And this plate here acts like a brake pad. So once I've located that, so the piston's now lined up in the tool. The brake pad is wound up. I'll just rotate this. Right. Once that's done, release that. The piston is now pushed all the way back in, which means there's a lot more room between the two, so that I can put the pads on a little bit easier. This makes my life much easier. Right. Taking a little bit of bearing grease, I'm just going to put some on the shaft, just to give it that fighting chance to be able to sort of survive longer than the last one did. Okay, so in the new disc kit, I've obviously got the disc brake. I've also got a cap and a hub nut. So I'm going to be using the hub nut, and I will be changing the wheels back to the standard wheels at some point in the very near future. But for now, I haven't got the time to do that. Got a nice little cover over the back of the ring, so that's the ABS ring there, and your wheel bearings inside. What a difference in noise already. So typically, best practice would be to clean this off with brake cleaner. Unfortunately, I ran out. That's one of the things I need to get hold of. I just haven't had the time to do it. Next up, I need to clean this caliper carrier. So I need to clean in the grooves here. Ideally, bringing this plate up to shine. So before and after that very light bracing. I also need to dismantle these and then re-grease the sliders. So when they go in there, they can slide up and down freely. And that's what activates your caliper moving back and forth. Just clean these up quickly. Right, so that cleaned up, I can put the caliper carrier back on. Right, got my new pads. Just need to make sure that they match up with the old ones. So you can go back to back and you can pretty much see that they are an exact match. With all new pads, I like to put a bit of copper grease along the bits that are going to make contact with the metal. Just allow it to help move out a little bit more. Right, that's that on there. Put my caliper back on. Okay, so just make sure they are tight. And give a bit of a tap across. And when I wind that piston back, you can now move that caliper back and forth. So, discs on. Pads on, calipers on, caliper carriers on. Just got to now torque this nut up, as I say, to 180 Newton meters. Splendid. Oh, it's quiet as anything, quite. Slap some copper grease on the hub. And also on the threads of these bolts. Okay, so in the ideal situation, I'll be putting that cap on now, but I haven't got decent tyres or roadworthy tyres for them standard wheels. So, for the time being, I'm going to use some kitchen cling film and I'm going to put it over the hub and I'm going to create my own seal, because when the wheel sits over, that's going to pin that on and it's not going to leak. Oh, lovely, right. So when changing any brakes, one thing you should always do is check the brake pedal. Now when you first get into the car with pushing a piston back, the pedal will pretty much go all the way to the floor. So what you need to do is pump it a few times, and then that is absolutely solid now. So let's take this car for a quick test drive. So I haven't been for the road test just yet. One thing I did fail to mention was, and I actually brought the car to the garage and stopped and come back in, always re-torque wheel nuts. So if you use an electric gun or an impact gun with a compressor, it's always worth checking afterwards once you've done that with a torque wrench, just to make sure your wheels are tight. So I tightened them up by the gun, went around, torqued into the correct setting, and yeah, it had quite a bit of movement on it still, so yeah, could have been a risky one. So let's go for a road test now. Probably won't be able to show you much because I've got my big camera and nothing to sort of support it on, but hopefully you'll be able to hear exactly what's going on. Oh, seatbelt on. Oh, magic. So quiet already. Let's go my usual route. Just been for a quick road test and that sounds absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to tidy up this mess in here and then get in, go to bed because it's pushing 10 o'clock. Oh, I know how to live. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this content, as always, please hit that thumbs up button, comment down below, and if you can, subscribe to the channel so don't miss out on any future content. That is it from me for today. I'll see you next time. Take it easy.